Well, hey everybody, my name is Kent. I'm lead pastor here at Epic. Everybody at all of our locations, do me a favor, put your hands together and help me welcome everybody who's with us today, yeah? Love you guys. So glad you're at church today. It's going to be a good one. Hey, before we jump into the last part of this series, I want to take just a moment and give you a little bit of an update on our year-end offering that we received last month. At the end of every year, we ask everyone to consider giving in a special offering in response to God's faithfulness in their life for the whole year, and also in support of what God's doing in and through our church here in our city. And man, I got to tell you, so many of you stepped up and you gave so generously. And so I just wanted to take a second and I wanted to give you the total, let you know what that was, and celebrate that together. And also, I just want to take a second just to thank you for giving the way that you did. So here we go. In all, everyone gave $294,726. Oh my gosh. Woo! Number's so big I couldn't even get it out my mouth. I don't even know how to do it. So $294,726, and that's absolutely incredible. A few things you need to know about that number. Number one, that's the largest offering we've ever received as a church, ever. So that's a big deal. Number two, I didn't think that we were going to be able to match what we were able to bring in the previous year when we had our year-end offering, what we all gave at that point. And here's the reason why. There's actually one couple in particular in our church that previous year who gave $50,000 to the year-end offering. And their job moved them to another city, and so they weren't going to be here for the year-end offering. And I shed a tear when that happened. And because that's a pretty good chunk, and I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to make up for that? And I just want to let you know that not only did we all pull together and make up for the $50,000 that was given from just one person, we all just gave that, but we also gave an additional $15,000 above and beyond even that number. So that's a huge deal. That was pretty big. And then the third thing you need to know about this number is for those of you who like round numbers that end in zero, you need to know this. This is just $5,274 short of $300,000. So, anybody? Feeling a little generous today? I'm just saying, you could fix this problem. So you should pray about that. So that's a big deal. Anyways, that was pretty awesome. You know, sometimes people look around at all the things we're able to do as a church. 4 locations, staff for all locations, and 900-person prom for people with special needs, the egg hunt that we do with 7,000 people, and just all the equipment that it takes to pull this off and stream across the city and all these different things. And you might wonder, like, how do they pay for all this? You ever wonder that? Anybody ever wonder that? Anybody ever even think about that? Like, how do they pay for all this stuff? And I want to tell you why, and here's how. It's because you are seated amongst some of the most generous and selfless and loving people in this city who've just decided that giving to help our church go further faster and giving so the people who are far from God discover they don't have to be is well worth it. That it's the absolute best investment they could ever make. And so as your pastor, I just want to take a second today and I just want to let you know I am so proud of you for your willingness to be generous. I'm so proud of you for your support of our vision, being behind every person in the city, coming to know Jesus as the forgiver and leader of their life. And I just want you to know that your giving really makes a difference. It's making a difference in the lives of so many people. So all across our locations, just give yourselves a hand. Come on, do that. Here we go. Very good. All right, so let's jump into the message. Hey, this is the third and final week in our series that we've called Potential. And the goal of this series has been to challenge and encourage you to not let 2019 go by just like another year, but to make sure that you kind of take 2019 by the horns and say, you know what, no, this year is going to be different. Like this year, I want to make sure I'm moving in a better direction, and I want to make sure that I really do reach my full potential. With God's help, we believe that that's possible. And the good news is I think that we're all just a few intentional steps away from that being our story at the end of this next year. You really can reach your full potential. Man, I want that for you so bad. But more importantly than me wanting that for you, you need to know this. God wants that for you. Like God really wants you to reach your full potential. In fact, I want to show you something Jesus said over in John chapter 10, verse 10. He says this, he says, the thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. And by thief here, here's what he means. He means anything or anyone that's in your life, and as a result of being in your life, it causes something to be stolen from you, something to be killed in your life, or something to be destroyed in your life. That's what a thief is. Anything or anyone that in the end has that kind of an effect on your life. Now some of you, whenever you hear me describe what a thief is, you immediately think of someone. You're like, oh, I dated him. You know what I'm talking about? Like he has a name, but you won't even say it out loud because you're like, I don't say his name out loud. But when you think about him, you immediately think, thief. That's what you think. You're like, he's a thief, stole my time, stole my energy, tried to steal my heart. You know, all this stuff, right? And you're like, that low-down thieving self, right? You think bad things. So it's okay. That's okay, right? That's an example of that. But there's lots of things that could steal from you. You can steal from you. Did you know? You could be your own worst enemy, right? Yeah, you could be your own worst enemy. You could steal from you. In fact, you have the potential in a greater way than anyone else to steal from your future, to cause you harm, to cause your relationships to be destroyed. You have a greater potential than anyone else to do that. So that's a thing. So anyways, Jesus says this, hey, there's all these thieves that are out there, including yourself. I want you to know something. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that they, when he says they, he's talking about everyone who's listening and everyone who's listening like then and everyone who's listening now, that they may have life. And then he goes on, he says, and have it to the full. Have it to the full. And there it is. He says, listen, I've come so that people, everyone then and everyone now can have life. But not just any kind of life, but life to the full. He says, I want you to have an abundant life, an extraordinary life. I want you to have the best kind of life. He said, hey, listen, I'm not like the thief. Like contrary to what a thief does, I'm not like that. I didn't come to steal, kill, and destroy. He said, no. I came so that people can get from me something. I can give to them and protect them, and I can build them. I came so that people can have life to the full. I came so that you can have and achieve your full potential. You see, according to Jesus, if we're going to reach our full potential, then he is a really important part of that equation. In fact, that's what we've been learning in this series. We've broken it up into 3 parts. We've talked about moments, movement. Today, we're going to talk about mission. The moments part was about how important it is to make sure that you have moments with God and you're intentional about moving in that direction. That's why being in a place like this on a Sunday morning is important and valuable. We talked about movement. We said, hey, listen, you can't follow Jesus and stay where you are. Because following Jesus, the nature of following Jesus requires action. Right? That you got to do something. That following Jesus shouldn't cause you to just believe some stuff, but following Jesus should actually impact what you do in your life. That's really important. You got to make sure that there's movement if you're going to reach your full potential. Today we're going to land the plane and we're going to talk about mission. And this was close to my heart because honestly, this is why we exist as a church. We're all about the mission. And so to get us where we're going, I want to start with a question. Here we go. Here's the question. Who or what is always on your mind? Think about that. Like who or what is always on your mind? And here's why I ask that question. It's because you can tell a lot about a person by what's always on their mind. I know some people for whom it's a guy or a girl who's just always on their mind, some cute little thing. Always on their mind. I know some people for whom work is always on their mind, right? They're never far from their phone, checking the email, trying to figure out how to increase profits over last year, always working on something. Work's just always on their mind. I know for some people, it's the weekend. It's just always on their mind. Come on, if that's you, let me see you. Yeah, you have issues. So, yeah, it's true that the weekend is just always on their mind. These are the people that can't make it to Wednesday without posting about something that's going to happen on Friday. I'm like, can it just be Wednesday for once? Gosh, slow down a little bit. Enjoy your life. Wednesday is a good day. So it's true. You can tell a lot about a person by what's always on their mind. In fact, I think you can discover what's most important to a person by what's always on their mind. So let me ask you the question again. Who or what is always on your mind? I was thinking about this, and I was like, gosh, wouldn't it be cool if we had like some type of technology where we could just point at a person and whatever it is that was on their mind would just pop up on the screen for all of us to see? Wouldn't that be awesome? No, it wouldn't, right? Which makes me a little concerned for you, because I'm like, what are you thinking about in church right now? Just saying. But would it be cool if we could do that? No, it would not be cool if we could do that. In fact, if you think about it, if we had that technology, which we don't, you're safe. The only person who ever lived that it would be safe to do that with would be Jesus. He's the only one. And he's the only one that would volunteer. He's the only one who would be like, yep, let's throw my thoughts up there. Now, if we did that, I think you'd be surprised by what would show up on the screen. Because it wouldn't be a new business strategy. And it wouldn't be about how to become more famous. And it wouldn't be about how to get more money. And it wouldn't be about what's going to happen on Friday. You know what it would be if we did this with Jesus? It'd simply be people. People were always on his mind. All kinds of people. Young people, old people, brown people, black people, white people, poor people, rich people, big people, little people, famous people, forgotten people, white collar, blue collar, no collar. People were just always on his mind. Like never has anyone in history been more preoccupied with people than Jesus was. And whenever Jesus got some fishermen to follow him, the first thing he told them was, hey, from this day forward, you're going to become a fisher of men. There's nothing wrong with the fishing business. Right? I'm fine with you catching fish or any other kind of business they might have been in. Nothing wrong with the construction business or real estate or any other kind of business. But Jesus says, hey, if you're going to follow me, then you're going to have to learn how to be in the people business because people are what matter most. Hey, every time the disciples would put somebody else or something else in front of the priority of people, Jesus was the first one to push back and say, whoa. What are you doing? People are the thing that matters. It's all about people. It's about serving people and caring for people and restoring people and loving people. So you need to get your priorities straight because you got to remember, hey, you got to keep people on your mind. And whenever they nailed Jesus to the cross, he prayed for those with the hammers in their hand. He even had those people on his mind. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Even in his dying moments, it's people that were always on his mind. Why is that? Why is it that in the midst of what was unbearable circumstances sometimes, why is it that Jesus almost exclusively always had people on his mind? What was that about? I think it's because Jesus, unlike anyone else, knew God's heart. Like he knew what made God's heart beat fast, and he knew it was people. And so he decided, man, if that makes God's heart beat fast, then that's what's going to make my heart beat fast. And if that's what God cares about, then man, that's what I'm going to care about. And man, if that's what God sets or makes the priority, then that's what I'm going to make the priority. And gang, if you think about it, if God cared for people, and if Jesus cared for people, then I think that people who call themselves followers of Jesus, they should probably care for people too, right? Yeah. Now you see this priority in Jesus' life played out over and over and over again. I just want to look at one passage with you that illustrates this. This is Mark chapter 2. Here's what Mark said. He says, while Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. Now, I want you to look at this, and I want you to notice who it is that Jesus is having his dinner with, having his meal with. His disciples, and then who Mark describes as being many tax collectors and sinners. Now, in this culture, there were different categories of people based on how godly or ungodly you were. And so here's the different categories. There were the Pharisees, These were like the religious people of the day. And honestly, they were full of themselves. They were arrogant. They weren't as religious as they thought they were, but it was more just kind of a show than anything else. So there's the Pharisees. They were average people who did their best to kind of live their lives according to the law. There were a group called the sinners, which are people who didn't pay much attention to the law. They were like, I'm a sinner. So they did that, right? And kind of did their own thing. And then there was a category of people in a category of their own called the tax collectors. Now, why is it? It sounds very specific, doesn't it? It's like, why would they have their own category? Tax collectors. Here's why. Tax collectors were considered like the lowest of the low, and it's because they made their living by overtaxing their own people and then keeping the profits for themselves, right? It's like, so nobody liked tax collectors. Not much has changed, right? I mean, we're coming up on that season. I don't like them people either, you know? So, yeah, well, it started right here. No one likes tax collectors. Being a tax collector was like being a Cowboys fan. It's like, wrong. Like that. Not okay. I'm not good with that, right? So, now get this. Now, Jesus loved being around sinners and tax collectors. What's even crazier is that sinners and tax collectors loved being around Jesus. Now, here he is, the most righteous, holy, godly person ever walk the face of the planet. But all these sinners and tax collectors couldn't wait to be around him. What's that about, right? What is that about? I love that they weren't intimidated by Jesus. They weren't put off by Jesus. They weren't embarrassed by Jesus. They weren't made to feel less than by Jesus. No, they actually liked Jesus. And it's not that he condoned their behavior, he didn't, but I think it's because they saw that he loved them in spite of it. Like, even though they probably had some junk in their life, like me and you, like even though they had some junk in their life, even though they probably sat there, and as they listened to Jesus, they were sitting there thinking, if he only knew the kind of stuff I'm into, if he only knew what I did last night or last weekend, or if he only knew what I did at my spring break down at the Sea of Galilee. It was lit, you know, like if he only knew, he would not be, if he knew how I made my money, he wouldn't be talking to me. But somehow, in spite of all of that, all those thoughts that might have been flying through their head, they still wanted to be around Jesus. Jesus loved being with people who were nothing like him. And people who were nothing like him loved being around Jesus as well. Gang, I'm just saying, I think that speaks volumes about who Jesus was, and I think that speaks volumes about who we should be. I think that speaks volumes about what Jesus prioritized, and I think that speaks volumes about what we should prioritize. I think that speaks volumes about the kind of church we should be. We should be a place where people don't feel intimidated or put off or embarrassed or made to feel less than. We should be a place where anyone can walk through the door and feel like they're just part of our family, because that's what Jesus was like. The church should attract the same people that were attracted to Jesus. And the church should repel and frustrate the same people that were frustrated by Jesus. Right? Those religious types. Verse 16. When the teachers of the law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with the sinners, I remember the Pharisees, these are religious people, saw him eating with the sinners and the tax collectors, they asked his disciples, now they didn't ask Jesus, and they're like, oh, I don't know about that, but I'll go ask my disciples. They asked his disciples, why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners? He's like, does he know who they are? Does he know what they're into? Does he know where they're from? Does he understand their background? Does he know their pedigree? It's not very good. See, I think what they were really saying was, does he know who we are? Because if he knew who we are, then he wouldn't be wasting his time with all those people. I love what happened next. Look what happened. It says, on hearing this, Jesus is like, what? He's like, I hear you whispering. I hear what you said. You can't whisper around Jesus. He's Jesus. He knows what's going down. It doesn't matter how quiet you say it. I heard that. And Jesus knows what's happening. On hearing this, Jesus said to them, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but this is so good. But the sick. I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Jesus makes it very, very clear who his priority was. He says, I'm not here to mess around with those of you who think you got it all together. Those of you that are pretending to be healthy, because honestly, you ain't. You aren't, right? No, I'm here for people who realize they need a Savior. I'm here for people who come to the point in their life where they finally realize that in and of themselves, they got nothing. They got nothing, you know? Like all of us should realize. The Pharisees were too proud to admit, you know? And so here it is, plain as day. I'm not here for the healthy. Oh, he says, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but it's the sick. I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Here it is, we see, plain as day, that who it is that to Jesus is the priority. Who it is that was always on his mind. People, specifically people who didn't know or didn't have a relationship with God yet. And over again, I'm telling you, story after story after story in the life of Jesus, you see that this was his priority. Man, his heart longed for those who didn't know him yet. His heart beat fast for those who hadn't discovered the hope that comes by knowing Jesus. He was like, oh man, I gotta do something about that. In fact, before Jesus went to heaven, he actually had like one final little powwow with all of his followers, and he gives them some final instructions. It's in Matthew chapter 28, starting verse 16. Here's what happened. It says, then the 11 disciples, there were 12, now there's 11. It's a long story, you should Google it. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. Now the reason why they worshiped him, and this wasn't like they didn't pull out a song in Kumbaya and sing songs about Jesus to Jesus. That's weird. They didn't do that. What they did is they fell on their face. And the reason why they fell on their face is because just a few weeks earlier, they saw Jesus die, and they saw him put in a grave, and then now he's back. And they're like, how would you respond? You know what I'm saying? And it even says some doubted. And I'm like, of course they did, right? Because if you went to a funeral and then like a month later you saw that guy walking around, you'd be like, Phil? That can't be Phil. There's no way that's Phil, right? Yeah, and so I love that little detail that Matthew throws in there. He's like, and some doubted. Verse 18, then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Verse 19, therefore, in other words, since I just dropped the mic by coming back from the dead and proving once and for all that I am who I say I am, that I'm from God, since I just did that and proved to everybody I am who I said I am, then here's what I want you to do. Here's your marching orders. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Jesus says, hey, I want you. He takes these 11 guys on the side of this mountain. He says, I want you to take the hope that you found in me. He says, Matthew, your life's been changed because of me. Matthew's like, yeah. Mark, yeah. Your lives have been told, the whole trajectory of your life has been changed because you've met me. Yeah. He says, I want you to take that same hope and I want you to share it with everybody you come into contact with. I want you to tell as many people as possible. And we'll see what happens. That was God's plan, to let a broken, busted world know that there's a way not to be so broken, busted anymore. But that through Jesus we can find hope and life and never be the same again. Now you realize these 11 guys on the side of the hill, this had to be hard for them to hear. I mean, on the one hand, it's inspirational. On the other hand, it's like, wait, we got to walk where? Like, I'm still winded just getting up the side of this mountain. You want me to go to all the nations? Like, I just take the ones that are close. Like, all of them? I don't know about all that. Yeah, all of them? Jesus says, no, that's the plan. I want you to go to all the nations. And so there's lots of challenges to this. It wasn't easy. They had to walk. There's no planes, trains, automobiles. They couldn't Uber. None of that stuff. Those weren't options. There was no public service announcement. They had no TV. There was no internet. Like, no, you couldn't just make a big mass appeal. And they had to go, like, in person and do this. Not only that, Rome at the time, because of their association with Jesus, they were considered fugitives from the law. And so they're like, they just couldn't, like, walk around in open. They're afraid for their lives. There's lots of challenges to this, but somehow, in spite of all those challenges, these guys were able to muster up the courage to just do it anyways. And God used these 11 guys to spark a movement that would change the whole world. How's that even possible? 11 guys on the side of a hill? Come on. This shouldn't have even made it out of the first century, but it did, and it changed the whole world. How's that possible? You know what I think? I think it's possible because of the promise that Jesus made at the end of that statement. Did you catch it? Just leave it up. Let's go back. I've commanded you, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. He says this, he says, hey, whenever a group of people get serious about the thing that I've asked them to do, to take the hope that they found in Jesus and share with everyone else around them, when a group of people get serious about that kind of a mission with their life, then I'm going to be with those people. I'm going to be behind those people. I'm going to support those people. I'm going to be in their corner and help push that thing forward because that's what I'm about and that's what my Father in heaven's about. And now that they're about it, man, we're going to keep pushing this on and on and on until everybody knows the hope that can be found as a result of who Jesus is and what he did, right? Listen, I don't know if you know this, but if you are a follower of Jesus, then part of your purpose in life is to share the hope that you found in Jesus with the other people around you. Did you know that? Part of your purpose in life. Oh, people say all the time, you know, what's God's plan for my life? I think a better question to ask is, what's my life in God's plan? Because God's up to a bigger thing than anything you got going. I'm just saying, not trying to offend you, but it's true. God looks at this broken, busted world, and he doesn't want it to be so broken and busted. And there's a strategy. There's a strategy to fix it. I mean, think about this. Everything that's wrong with the world, every single thing that's wrong with the world is a result of the brokenness in the hearts of humans, right? The reason why prostitution exists is because of the brokenness in the hearts of humans, so there's a demand for it. The reason why racism exists is because of the brokenness in the hearts of humans. The reason why hatred exists is because of brokenness is in the hearts of humans. God didn't make those things. It's because of the brokenness in the hearts of humans. You know what's cool? You know the only person that has the power to change the human heart? Jesus. And he knows that the key to fixing all that's broken in this world is to fix the hearts of humans. And that's the reason why you, and that's the reason why I have been handed this thing as the purpose of our life. Because God looks at this broken world and says, no, my plan from the beginning was to do something about that brokenness. And so I sent Jesus. And Jesus handed that mission to the rest of his followers and said, I want you to do something about the brokenness around you. And it begins with sharing the hope that you found in Jesus with the other people around you, wherever you happen to be. That's your purpose. You're not an accountant so that you can do some accounting. You're an accountant so that you can help make disciples of the people you rub shoulders with every day. God placed you there. You're not in grad school so that you can get an education. That's part of it. You're in grad school so that you can help make disciples and share the hope that you found in Jesus with the other people that you rub shoulders with every day. You're not a stay-at-home mom so that you can stay at home mom. You're a stay-at-home mom so you can make disciples and share the hope that you found in Jesus with the other people that are around you. Big, small, play date, all of them. God gave you that purpose. Listen, I think that for some of us, the most significant thing you'll do with your one and only life is actually allow God to use it to make a difference in someone else's. The most significant thing you'll do with your one and only life could be allow God to use it to make a difference in someone else's by helping make the connection between them and God. I'm telling you, that's a game changer. You talk about full potential. Being part of something that makes a difference in the life of someone's forever. Oh, there's nothing like that. You can chase money, you can chase fame, you can chase popularity, you can chase it all, but there's no high like responding to God's tap on your shoulder when he says, hey, I'm up to something in this world, and I want you to be part of it. Let's do this. Yeah? So real practically, real quickly, I want to give you some things that you can do. Number one, you can look for opportunities in your everyday life for you to be able to share your faith, to love people well. You realize the greatest expression of our faith is actually just love people well, right? You know why? Because that's what Jesus was like. It's exactly what Jesus was like. So look for opportunities to love the other people around you. And don't be scared to have meaningful conversations, to have conversations about faith. Just bring it up. Talk about it. People want to talk. People are curious. Share. Number two, I think every day we need to be praying and ask God to help us see people the way that he sees people. Right? Like how quick are we to dismiss others? Come on. Right? Hey, we should look for opportunities to be able to step in and do what Jesus would do if he saw those people. That type of a thing. Anybody, you know? And number three, I think you got to look for opportunities to invite people to places like this. You see, we believe that everything's better when God's at the center of it. We think your relationships are better when God's at the center. Your career is better when God's at the center. Your life is better when God's at the center. You are better when God's at the center. And we want that for every single person. Everybody. Every person in the city. All 1.56 million people. We want that for every single person. And so, because of that, man, gosh, we've worked hard to create a church, to create a place where anybody can walk through the doors and not feel like they're on the outside looking in, but know that, hey, they've got a home. Like they're part of a thing. They can belong even before they ever believe. They can get answers for their questions. That's the kind of place this is. And so, I would encourage you to invite some people along with you. And if you're wondering, like, who should I invite? Everybody. Everybody. That's a quick answer. Everybody. And if you're really wondering, let me give you these real quick. These are 4 knots, all right? And this is a little tool that we use. And here's the thing. If you come across someone who's not in church, you should invite them to church. You should say, hey, I go to this church. It really makes a difference in my life. Well, you should come with me. Hey, if you come across someone where things are not going well, right, going through a breakup, something's happening, you should say, hey, man, I'm sorry that's happening. Be there for them. And then say, hey, you know, something that really makes a difference in my life is this church I'm part of. You should come with me. You come across someone who's not ready for something, like they had a baby, ain't nobody ready for that. Ain't nobody ready for that. Right? You meet someone who's not ready for something, right? Some transition, you say, hey, you know, there's this place that really means a lot to me. You should come with me. Why don't you come with me? Or you come across someone who's not connected. Blows my mind that you can be surrounded in a city like this by 1.56 million people and still be all alone. You kidding me? We should change that. We should do something about that. Right? You come. So any of these you come in a conversation, man, these should be a trigger for you to be like, hey, you should come with me to my church. It's pretty cool. I think it'd be better than what you think it's going to be. I'm gonna promise you that. You know, and that's my promise to you. I'm gonna deliver on that. All right. So those are the 4 knots, and here's one opportunity in specific I want to share with you. 2 weeks from today, we have this thing called Epic Day. It's like we basically created our own holiday. All right, who does that? We does that. So we made our own holiday, and here's how it works. On Epic Day, we're going to kick off a new series. I'm going to work really hard to give the very best message I can that's going to be relevant and helpful and practical for anybody, whether you are a follower of Jesus or not. Just like, wow, that's meaningful, right? Make sure it really connects, and we'll work real hard. We're going to work real hard to do that. And also that day we actually, it's the only day that you can get the official 2019 Epic Church t-shirt for free, right? That's a thing. And so, yeah, we're excited about that. It's a good one. I'm pumped about it. So anyways, you got to be there for that. And you should bring someone along with you. That's a big deal. So 2 weeks, Epic Day is coming up. It's on February 10th. And so here's what I want everybody to do. Everybody take your phone, and I want you to set an alarm, all right, for 2:10. 2:10 in the afternoon. Not 2:10 in the morning, you'll get kicked out of your house. 2:10 in the afternoon. And when that alarm goes off, I want you to take just 1 minute. I want you to pray for our church. I want you to pray for Epic Day, because so many people's relationship with God starts on an Epic Day. It just does. And I want you to pray about who it is that you're going to bring with you 2 weeks from today. All right? 2:10 every day in the afternoon. Be praying. And I'm telling you. We're going to see God do a miracle. We're going to see God do the impossible, because that's what he does. Yeah?